a video on cheap cheese. So I've noticed that this cheap cheese, when you cook with it, lots of fat wants to come out of it. I've forgotten why that happens and why cheap cheese has got more fat in it. Is it because the cheesemonger told me? And I think it's down to the age. I just don't think it's not had enough time to mature properly. So it's matured in, I think it's matured in sealed plastic bags, and then kind of matured kind of quite quickly under the weight of more cheese on top of it. So it's kind of compressed. So not a lot of the, so it doesn't lose moisture, and doesn't. I can't remember. Anyway, so I noticed. I think it's just down to the maturity of the cheese. If it was aged for longer, less fat would come out of it when you cook with it. But I was just kind of quite curious about how much fat is going to come out of this. So when we fry with it, so I was doing like a loose meat sandwich stroke burger, and I was using cheap cheese to kind of hold the meat together, and lots of fat came out, and you just kind of drain it off. I've done something with the fat, and it's quite interesting. So I have a thought about what I want to do with the fat, but I'm just curious about how much fat's going to come out of this cheese. So the oven's on, it's on low. I'm going to go out for a couple of hours. So it's on 100 degrees. I'm just going to put this in the bottom of the oven, and we're going to see how much fat comes out of it. I could grate it, chop it up smaller. I'm just going to let it melt and see what happens, see what fat comes out of it, see what kind of like cheese solids are left after the fat's kind of come out of it. And then we might try and do something. I might have a bit more of a think, and then we might do something with the cheese fat, and see, out of curiosity. So, into the oven, 100 degrees. We'll give it a couple of hours because that's how long I'm going to be out. I'm going to go swimming, and I've got a job to do while I'm out. So it'll be in the oven for a couple of hours while something else is cooking as well. So I'm not wasting any kind of electricity. But just out of curiosity, like most of the things that I do are. Squeaky oven door. I'm never going to fix it. So it's had a couple of hours at 100 degrees. Some fat's separated out of it. We can see down the bottom of there. But I think it's going to need to go higher up in temperature. So we actually kind of need to almost fry the fat out of it. So I need to turn the oven up anyway. So we can put it up to 150, and we'll see what happens. But we might end up having to put it in a frying pan and actually frying it to get the fat out of it. But we'll see. So at a higher temperature, more fat's coming out. But I think it really needs frying. It needs that direct heat rather than moving around rather than being in an oven. But not to worry. So we'll fry it. I'm gonna have something to eat first, and then we'll fry it afterwards. But we'll chop it up and we'll fry it in the frying pan. We'll see if we can get any more fat out of it. Right. So the cheese set, and I cut it up, and then fried it. It hasn't remelted back together, which is kind of quite interesting. Which I suppose is what halloumi cheese is. You know, you kind of cook the curd, and then it doesn't want to remelt that together. So we've got some fat out of it, not much. I think what I'm going to have to do is I've got some leftover cheese that's grated in the freezer. So we're getting a little bit of fat out, you can see. So I've got some grated cheese in the freezer, which is just a useful thing to have. There's leftover some function, things like that. So I think what we'll do is we'll defrost some of the grated cheese and fry that, and then I think we'll get more of the fat out of that. But we're getting some. It's just a bit of a fat. So baking it in the oven is certainly not what to do. Frying it in a pan is certainly the way forward. But I was just being, I don't know. If you don't try, you never find out, do you? There's a thing going back a few months ago. I'm not going to swear, but it was the more you around, the more you find out. And generally, well, we can replace that word with faff. So the more we faff around, the more we find out. And I'm quite curious about things. So if something doesn't work, that's fine. You know, not to do it again. But I also now know that we can create these crispy cheesy bits, and we can use those in things. So every cloud, silver lining and all that. So these haven't stuck together, but they've gone kind of like crispy and cheesy. So they're a bit like bacon bits. Well, quite delicious. I can't imagine they're particularly very good for you, but they're like bacon bits. They've got that umami, salty kind of flavour to them. So that's what I'd do. If I wanted to create a vegetarian dish and have like fake bacony bits, because a lot of vegetarian and vegan food seems to be more based around the fake meat type of thing, they'd be quite interesting to put in, wouldn't they? So you bake it in a tray in the oven so it goes a little bit crispy, let it go cold, and then chop it up into bits, and then you've got these fakey cheesy bacony bits, you know, which would be delicious sprinkled onto things. But anyway, bit of failure, bit of a success, and we're only halfway through the video. So 370-ish grams of grated cheap cheese that I've pulled out of the freezer. I don't think freezing it and frosting it will affect the it melting. I've never come across it being a problem in the past. I'm a friend who's a cheesemonger, recommends people to freeze cheese all the time if they're worried about it storing. I don't think that works with all cheeses, if I'm honest. I've always found cheeses with a bit of a soft rind don't freeze particularly very well. Hard cheeses, yes. Cheeses like this, like semi-hard cheeses, yes. Soft cheeses, I'm not sure. I found that the rind wants to fall off. So let's fry it and let's see what happens. I suppose I should get 2 containers that are the same, so we can measure how much fat comes out of this. So we can fill the fat up with that one, and then when we want to weigh it to get an idea of how much fat came out of it, I can use that to tear off on the scale. So put that on the scales, set it to 0, and then take that one off, put that one on, and then we'll get an idea of what weight of fat we get out of it for 370-ish grams of cheese. So we'll move around. We don't want it to burn or scald. We just want the fat to come out of it. That's if the fat's actually going to come out of it. There's no guarantee, you know. But some fat came out when we put it in the oven, so I can't see why some fat won't come out when we fry it. That's generally when the fat comes out. There might be too much in the pan. Might be too much in the pan. That might be a factor, that the fat's got nowhere to leach out to. Maybe. Oh no, it looks like the fat's coming out when it goes crispy around the outside. So it's just a case of moving it around. So keep moving it around, and I'll probably have a coffee at the same time while I'm not doing anything. You don't need to see this bit, do you? No, you just kind of need to see that I'm moving it around, and we can see some of the fat's coming out already. So I can't imagine the fat will combine back into the cheese, but we'll see. We'll see. I think it'll want to split out of it, but we'll see. I might take some of the cheese out, but I'll stop the video because otherwise it'll just get a bit too long, and it'll just be me waffling, which I don't seem to have a problem with. You know, that running out of things to talk about and waffling about random stuff does not seem to be a problem for me. But anyway, so stop the video, and we're back when I've actually done something with it. Right, so just a simple case of moving things around so the cheese doesn't scorch too much, but you can see how much of that cheese fat has come out of it. So need to carefully turn the heat off, and we'll scoop some out, and then what we'll do is we'll fry it a bit more, and then scoop a bit more out, and then fry it a bit more, and scoop a bit more out. We're getting quite a lot. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I do, but let's just run with it. Let's just run with it for the moment. So we've got quite a bit of fat out of there. So it'll be easier as the cheese crisps up. We should be able to pull more fat out of it and move it around. It still looks kind of quite greasy there, so there's more fat to come out of it. So as you can see, it's lost some kind of volume. It's hardened up a bit, so we kind of need to carry on cooking it, moving it around and getting more fat out of it and so it pools. So moving it around, and then we'll decide what we're going to do with the leftover cheese, and we'll decide what we're going to do with the fat that's come out of it. Interesting for me, probably not interesting for anyone else. Looks a bit like seitan. Not Satan, seitan, which is that meat substitute that's made out of flour protein. Just move that around, squeeze it around. We'll get that out, but we'll carry on doing it. Keep on going and going and going and going until there's no more fat to come out of it. And I'll stop. Right, I think that's just about all the fat we're going to get out of that cheese. So it's lost quite a bit of weight, as you can see, and we've gained quite a bit of fat. So we've got the other jar on the scales, so that's set to 0. So we've got 71 grams worth of fat that's come out of that cheese. There will be some more in there. It'll just got trapped. You know, it still looks a bit oily. So there's obviously could get more out of that. Probably put less cheese in the pan. I probably would have got more fat solids out of it. But anyway, so we'll put that on a plate, and then we'll see what happens with that. Oh, I'm actually got a bit more fat out of there. Right. So I have got another experiment I want to do first before I decide what I'm actually going to do with that cheese fat. But we'll just let that go hard, and then we'll have a look at it. But that won't. I have a feeling now that won't want to melt again. So it'll go like the cheese that I was faffing around with in the oven yesterday. Went like baked and hard and wouldn't remelt and combine back with each other. I think that's kind of like the same. So we've kind of made a fried cheese type of like halloumi. It's lost a bit of flavour as well. I have tasted it. Of course I've tasted it. So it's lost a bit of flavour, which leads me to believe that lots of the flavour's gone into is actually just the fat. So we'll let that go cold. We'll let that set, and then I'll have a play around with something else, and then we'll come back to that with a bit of experiment and fun. So it's had a bit of time to harden. That's pretty rock solid. That fat's hardened, so that's okay. Let's can we get into it? I've been washing up. That's soap on my hands. It's not anything else. Oh, okay. So it kind of cuts. It's alright. It's alright. I think it's not as nice as those. So those were the ones that we melted in the oven. They're nice and crunchy. No, I think that's probably had too much of the fat removed from it. Let's see. Great. Well, this is just out of curiosity. So, will it great? Yeah, we can grate it down. It's not going to melt into anything, so we couldn't like use it in to melt into risotto, because once it's like that, it's not going to melt anymore. I don't know what you could use it for. I don't know. I think it's just had too much of the... I'm doing it again, I'm putting things in my mouth and then talking. I am rude. But I don't know what you could use it for. Those are nice. The cheesy mock bacony bits. Very nice. But not as much use at all. But anyway, so a little experiment. You find out something. It might lead us somewhere else. That's a success.